I will provide even stronger reasons to why I was poisoned. My mother was always rushing to the bathroom with a fake expression on her face, claiming that she had urgent needs, but I wasn't even asking her. So she was in fact running to the bathroom to spit the food that she cooked. She ate it to make it seem legitimate, but he was poisoning all foods. Aside from that, she was boiling each dish, each food that she cooked all of the time. So I couldn't sense that she placed all kinds of poisons in them. Or maybe just sexual secretions, but she caused my condition, which is fatal. Another big reason is that she became violent whenever I was near the kitchen in which she cooked. So I wasn't even paying attention to her occupation, but she became so violent and susceptible. Suspicious. She was paranoid. That is because she was afraid I would be spying on her and see that she poisoned the food, but I saw that a few times also. Towards near the period I refused to eat from them anymore. As I said, she was leaving to gather poisonous plants all of the time, and she was very violent if one was to follow her footsteps, or just observing her, because she gathered poisonous plants. She was very violent whenever one was to observe her, as I said. Another big reason is that she and her husband cooked a traditional dish that's called mamaliga. It is made from corn flour. They stuffed it with worms, and they cooked it like that. My youngest brother was also eating. That was a charade. He was acting as if he wasn't knowing, but he never took any bite of that dish, and he had that expression of disgust already prepared, and so he knew in advance. So they poisoned once again, and that was a very obvious event. As I said, they insisted, especially my father, because my father was only home with being only visited by the other members. He insisted all of the time to have me eating and drinking from him, and he became very violent. He saw in this period of time I stayed here since I returned, that I'm not willing to eat or drink from him anymore, and he now wants to get rid of me. He came up with so many lies ever since I came back. Now he wants me to move with him and the other members of my family in a remote area. That is highly suspicious. It makes no sense. He has to be punished. All of the members of my family have to be imprisoned for a long time, as the law implies. And I have many other reasons, as I said, about being stalked by so many persons. Whenever I was to offer them in the distant past, when they were stalking me, I'm talking about my parents especially, I tried to offer them some foods, unopened foods. They never ate anything from me, because I did that because they were so um, insistent and were stalking me, and they acted as if they were friends. And so I wanted to offer them. Those were just simple attempts to have them at ease, because I know they are mentally ill, and they never, ever ate or drank from me, because that is another big reason, because they knew what they were doing, and so they were fearing that's why they were paranoid. And as I said, it is very likely that other persons, strangers to me, gave them sexual secretions in order to place them in my food, or especially water bottles, because I left my room unlocked in the past, and they entered in my room all of the time. As I said, all of them have to be punished. I also have other strong reasons, and I will show pictures of them. As I said, my mother immortalized what she enjoyed doing, poisoning. Most likely that's what the picture suggests. She is a prostitute, and she was a known prostitute. She should also be in prison. I can provide much more reasons. As I said, my father, I said many times, but somehow the recordings got deleted. A lot of, in many instances, but I recorded them through other applications, and they got deleted. And so that is why I'm not active as I used to be, not as full of energy I used to be. As I repeated these things many times, but they have to be repeated. They are solid. Those are solid proofs. The foods that they offered me also had sometimes strange tastes, but they were all the time lying. Another major reason, is that they mixed foods with strong tastes, so that it would be very difficult to assess the real taste, which could have been a dubious one. And they did so many things that should have them imprisoned. I can supply much more proofs. I said they collected money they profited off my image. I was attending school, and they took thousands of euros because of that. They never gave me a significant sum. They also demanded me medical documents, and they used them in Italy, where he was supposed to care for the elderly. He, in fact, was bragging about committing many violations, but not to me, but to other persons. But he used my medical documents, most likely. And this happened at the same time he was denying any condition regarding me. He was denying that I could have any medical condition all of this time, but he took me medical exams and documents to profit most likely off of it. I never received a significant sum. And so he used me, and I'm suspecting he also created a life insurance on my name, one that I will never agree with having anyone to benefit in any way from it. I would agree with such documents only if those were to benefit me solely, exclusively. But I don't think those can do such things. If I may presumably be dead, then those can't benefit me anymore. So I'm not accepting any of those. I want to be compensated for 2 cases of malpractice, medical malpractice, and many other violations. I'm thinking about a big enough sum. One, as I said, some partners of victims that were killed by medical malpractices were compensated with big enough sums. So I suffered 2 medical malpractices, but I want to supply even more solid reasons to why I was poisoned. As I said, I woke full of blood in one instance when I was about 16, and at that time I had recurring eye infections, itchiness, a constant sense of itchiness. At the same time, I was bleeding even at school when I was about approximately 16 years old. So I slept one day in a room of the apartment. I was assured that there's no problem in doing that, and I woke up full of blood, bleeding through my nostrils with the sheet surrounding me full of blood, and I had that sense of itchiness and recurring bleedings, nose bleedings in that period of time close to after the initial event for long enough time. And since then the cancer cells multiplied at that spot. That is, if I'm not wrong, it may be the same spot as the Dr. Roberto cut me in, and he did that to further damage the spot, the area. Most likely I was harmed. I was punctured by a member of my family. I was punctured through my nostrils, and that caused me a massive bleeding, hemorrhaging at that time. And since then, as I said, I had randomly provoked bleedings. They randomly appeared with no particular reason other than this one. And my youngest brother, the one that also entered in my room when I was sleeping many times and could never justify what he did, trespassing, was also assisting me when I went to the Dr. Roberto at medical hospital at the Muntenia Medical Hospital in Pitești. So he could have talked with the doctor about doing that to me, puncturing that spot, and the doctor also further damaged it with a medical shaver. There was an attempt to kill us. They also injected me with a substance that's used only locally. They injected me, the fact is they injected me in the major veins in my arms. In the major vein in my arms with saline. That is plain wrong from the medical literature I read, and that was a reputable source, the one that I read this information from. As far as I know, as I said, that substance is used only locally as for a medical procedure, for example, injected into gum but not injected in massive amounts through a major vein. That is to be completely forbidden. And so that was an attempt to kill me. It is an obvious case of medical malpractice. As I said, these are all major reasons to why the members of my family caused me death. As I said, not only through poisoning, by needles, by drugs. They placed synthetical drugs into my cigarettes, and I had a lot of pains, and they prevented me from calling an ambulance because I was feeling pretty bad. But I asked him many times before that, and he assured me, I'm talking about my older brother, Iunian, which is a major criminal. He should also be punished in prison. He assured me that the cigarettes he wanted to offer me didn't contain such substances. Multiple times I asked him, I remember that. And after I was feeling bad, he gave me a pill. I don't know what kind of pill it was. I hope it wasn't other dangerous pill. But they did all of these abuses. I have proof, as I said. So this is the address I'm living at. It is the same address mentioned on my identity card. I want to be compensated. As I said, I sent a letter an application to the European Court of Human Rights. I will provide even more reasons and show pictures of the doctor, Robert and others, and the members of my family, so I can make it clear. Also about my mother. She also repeated to me many times that I wanted to place her in jail, although I never had any attempt. So she was extremely scared, she was extremely paranoid. Why would she be like that unless she wasn't a criminal? Why would she was that scared unless she wasn't an obvious criminal? She lived an apparently peaceful life, although she was all of the time stressed, and she woke up in the middle of the night because she had many things to hide. As I said, she was extremely paranoid. That is why, because she was guilty. I never attended the station, as I said about corrupt policemen, how they wanted me to sign. Those are as corrupt as they can be, and they collaborated with the members of my family. I talked about how they lied in the previous videos, and how I was very sick as a young kid. For weeks I was vomiting and having diarrhea, and they kept me in the house by force. So that is unbelievable. I also said about my older brother, how he poisoned me through cigarettes laced with synthetic drugs. I asked him multiple times, as I wasn't ever comfortable with doing such thing. And he lied about it. And he also gave me a pill. He hit me multiple times when I was collapsing after smoking the cigarettes. He is a major criminal. And as I said, all of those are not only pointing to cases of fatal poisoning, but are also pointing to extreme violence and obvious acts of violence. Those should have them convicted and imprisoned. It is a shame that I had to resort to such things because of this corruption. So I have even more reasons for having them placed in jail for a long time and having me and receiving the financial compensation. I have even more reasons. I will show pictures of them and also the content of the ECHR application and the conversation with the ECHR's contact person, which gave me an incomplete number. I talked about how I went to Dr. Popescu in Pitești when I was 7 years old and talked about having abnormal cells grown at the base of the tooth. I was told after doing the last CT that had cancerous cells at the root. So that is the same tooth and had been having those cancerous cells ever since I was 7 years old. Dr. Popescu, that is the family name. I forgot the other name, but she was also aware of that and talked about it, not too much, and she wasn't explicit, but she mentioned it. I clearly remember, although I was 7 years old. So I've been having oral cancer ever since I was 7 years old. That is because I was injected by force with contaminated needles, sexually abused, poisoned massively through foods and drinks by the abusive members of my family, which should have been imprisoned, but no one imprisoned them. Because of the massive corruption, that is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. I have to emphasize that. I wouldn't jump to such important conclusions, dramatical conclusions, if I wasn't 100% sure. But I have so many proofs, and I said a lot of them. I mentioned a lot of them, and I think those should be solid enough for anyone. So I will try to think of even more of them. He was, as I said, he was contacting other doctors also, and I felt bad following such interventions which he assisted each time. He is an ex-convict. He only wanted to obtain the death of those close to him, as he's paranoid, he's mentally ill, he has many complexes. He has to be imprisoned because he's a dangerous person. It is unbelievable that he reached this age, that he was free for so long. He got to do so many problems. He got to commit so many atrocities that is shaming. I have even more reasons to affirm those things, to back up all of the claims in my videos. So as I said, those close to me, for example, colleagues may have also got in contact with the members of my family, and very likely also supplied bodily secretions for mentally ill persons of my family in order to poison me. So maybe that's why they also stalked me so much. And no one ever did anything, but unbelievably corrupt are also the policemen. I think those are some of the most corrupt persons I ever saw. I'm sure about that. and they haven't been punished. I also talked about I will also talk about the persons in the companies I rented properties from, and how no one ever did anything and they are still owing me the equivalent of more than $150. That is another scam. That is another violation that they wanted to kill me, and they tried to trespass me. I video and audio recorded everything. How they drilled the walls surrounding the door without me being late in paying, without me damaging anything. They cut off the electricity. They did all kind of abuses and violations, and no one punished them. In fact, the policemen and the police crews passed by and again stared at me, as they did all of the time, for years, as if they tried to extort me. The level of the corruption is unbelievable. I'm an honest, hard-working person, as I said. And about my father, he has to be imprisoned, and I deny any allegations involving life insurances and the like documents. I don't want him to profit in any way off of me. I want him to be charged for the crimes I said he committed, and that I have proof that he committed. I want to be compensated for all of those violations, for the medical malpractices and for the other violations. He should also compensate me because he caused me this fatal condition. Instead, he keeps threatening me, and the authorities don't seem as vigilant as they seemed in the past. In my case, but my mother is mentally ill, and I again recorded her. She visited him, Iunian, Gheorghina, the old prostitute, visited him a few days ago, and she initiated interactions with me again. So it shows how corrupt and not to be trusted she and mentally ill she is. Mistrustful. She is a dangerous person. I said about her, all of her paranoid episodes, how much she lied for all of these years, how I was ill for weeks after eating from her, how they insisted, and why they poisoned. Those are solid reasons. That is why she was interchangeably going, she was concomitantly going to the bathroom while cooking. She did that intermittently. So either she threw the food she ate in, but she ate it in order to make it seem legitimate, or she might have just masturbate and fill the secretions in get the filthy secretions and put them in the food. She is mentally ill anyway, and she has to be punished. I do not want to mention obscene things, but that is the truth. She is mentally ill. She should have been in prison. The same goes for any member of my family. As they harmed me, they killed me, not at once, but they did it throughout all of these years. Maybe that is even worse than other offenses, than the worst offenses, some of the worst offenses. So they should be punished. They tried to convince me to eat raw and poisonous fruits from various remote areas, as I remember. I will also talk about another major reason is that to avoid being blamed for any food poisoning, they always passed the lied that the food I was eating was given to them by unnamed persons, but only after eating. Many times they said that they wanted to give me food from other persons, and I refused them all of the time. But they poisoned. It is not like they asked, they poisoned. I will try to provide other reasons. I'm trying to remember. I said about having eye infections for no apparent reason. They poisoned each day, and they all of the time they had secrets, and they were whispering. They have to be convicted. I haven't poisoned them. They have to be convicted. I said about being stalked by many persons. Most likely they also supplied damaging substances to the criminals, the members of my family. They undoubtedly need to be convicted, imprisoned for a very long time, so that they won't ever get to harass me again, commit violent acts to harm me. And she also placed foods on the outdoor windowsill in order for me to get them. And she made up stories about kids falling from buildings, from windowsills. But she was also known to do that. Even her husband said about it multiple times. And she also invented that a child was walking on windowsills. She always kept repeating me so psychopatic stories. She was like a witch, and she was also involved into many religious cults. She should be imprisoned without any doubt. She committed many violations, and she was very violent all of the time. She was afraid of being imprisoned in the past, actually, but for no apparent reason other than this one. But she most likely committed other violations also. She came home with stolen phones, and she wanted to give them to me, and I refused that. But it most likely was another attempt to have me beaten and attacked on the grounds of stealing the phone in question. She alleged that she found it. So she was again most likely in a sexual affair with a young person of bad background. And it wasn't the first instance. She has to be punished. She is unbelievable. And she lied so much throughout her life about me and about many things. As I said, these are solid reasons. I can show also the contract for the apartment I rented the last time. The owner entered by force, as I said, and changed the lock. She failed to return me the sum I paid in advance as warranty, and she was threatening me. She was lying. She came up with a lot of lies and scenarios that were not true. I can also show it. I will hide some sensitive data, but not all of it. I can show it again. This is the company. The real estate agency. She is the owner. My name can be seen here. I don't want to disclose sensitive data or number. But the stamp can be seen right here. And their signatures can also be seen. And they tried to enter by force so many times. That's the signature of the owner. That is the stamp. Again, I filmed many criminals trying to enter by force. Or knocking violently at the door. She came up with various mails, but she was saying that those were her husbands. I don't think it was possible to have more husbands. That's not a common practice in this country. This is unbelievable. I can also show another contract from a room I rented, from a house, from the owner of a house I rented a room in. He also supported some criminals in their attempts to harm me, and they turned off electricity, threatened to kill me without any reason, and wanted to attack me, enter by force many nights. And it is very likely that my father was also involved into that. But no one ever did anything, and the police crews passed by and left me and stared me in the face, as if they extorted me. So, for no apparent reasons, I was an honest citizen throughout all of my life, and I worked a lot of time. I'm a hard-working, honest citizen. And although I'm an honest person, I haven't received any proper protection. I will show also this document, but I will show my sensitive data. I will not show it. This is the real estate agent. That is his signature. This is unbelievable. I will also show pictures of the persons in question. And I will also show the ECHR application I sent. And the phone call conversation I had with ECHR's contact person. That is unbelievable.